Jai Shri Radhe. Shri Vallabhadisha ki Jai. Sab Vaishnav ko Sadhanya. Jai Shri Krishna. Day 152 of our recordings, Varta 135, the story of one Kshatriya Vaishnav from Agra, Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Rajasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Nagararanjani, who manifests from Brajamangala and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. Part 1. He had a cloth shop in Agra. He traded in cloth and he kept the very best cloth on the market. Once Sri Gosaiji came to Agra, the Kshatriya Vaishnava caught sight of him in the road and immediately cherished a desire to become his disciple. Sri Gosaiji went to stay at Rupa Chandananda's house. The Kshatriya cloth trader followed him there and requested him to initiate him as a disciple. Sri Gosaiji recognized that he was a divine soul and initiated him with the Lord's name. On the very next day he granted him the Brahma Sambandha initiation. He then instructed the Kshatriya to associate with Rupa Chandananda, through which he would attain devotional joy. Thereafter, the Kshatriya Vaishnava regularly attended satsangs at Rupa Chandananda's house to listen to the stories of the Lord's pastimes. Some days later, Sri Gosaiji returned to Gokul, and this Kshatriya came to him there. He had an idea to present the whole of Sri Gosaiji's family with all his children and daughters-in-law with the very finest wearing apparel. He collected saris threaded with real gold and silver, special finery from Gujarat and rolls of cloth also threaded with gold and silver. He stored all these separately. He continued to collect for 2 or 3 years until he had 2 full bundles, one for men and one for ladies. When the bundles were full and ready, he packed them up and set off for Agra. He arrived in Gokul. He arrived in Gokul. Sri Gosaiji was sitting in his bertak. The Kshatriya Vaishnava arrived and bowed low to Sri Gosaiji, who asked him when he had arrived, and he replied that he had just then arrived from Agra. He said, "O Maharaj, I have been wishing to have your sight for many days now. I have a wish to present the finest garments to all your sons, daughter-in-laws, and ladies in the family. I have been collecting them and keeping them separately for many days now. O Maharaj, please accept these offerings from me." Sri Gosaiji asked him to bring the bundles of cloths in so that he could look at them. The Kshatriya Vaishnava placed the 2 bundles before Sri Gosaiji. He opened them and looked inside. Seeing their very superior quality, Sri Gosaiji was very pleased. He said, "These cloths are worthy of Sri Swaminiji." He put all of those cloths intended for Sri Swaminiji and had them taken to the middle of the Sri Yamunaji river and put into the water there. He also put the other bundle, having filled it with all the other clothes, in the water in the same way. The Kshatriya Vaishnava began to think deeply and said to himself, "This was my heart's desire, and I spent many, many days collecting all these items together. Sri Gosaiji has now put them all into the river. The wish of my heart has remained in my heart. Oh well, it must be the Lord's wish." Night fell, and he was still thinking in this way. He neither ate nor drank anything and just lay there. Sri Gosaiji is the Lord himself, and so he knew that Kshatriya Vaishnava's thoughts. He knew that he was feeling troubled. Sri Gosaiji is most compassionate. He is merciful to the devotees, an ocean of kindness and mercy. He could not bear the Vaishnava's grief. He decided to remove his sorrow. In the middle of the night, Sri Gosaiji got up and filled a basket with dried fruits. He asked the whereabouts of the Vaishnava from Agra, and Vaishnava told him, "O Maharaj, he is lying down deep in troubled thought." Sri Gosaiji asked the Vaishnava to get him up and bring him there. The Vaishnava did just that. Sri Gosaiji addressed the Kshatriya Vaishnava, "Please bring this basket with you and come to Thakurani Ghat." The Kshatriya Vaishnava picked up the basket and led the way. Sri Gosaiji followed him. Some other Vaishnavas also started to walk with them, but Sri Gosaiji forbade them, saying that they too would go on their own. The other Vaishnavas turned back. They went and sat in his bertak and said they would wait there to see him until he returned. Sri Gosaiji and the Kshatriya Vaishnava went on, just the 2 of them. Sri Gosaiji guided him to Thakurani Ghat. When they reached the ghat on the river bank, Sri Gosaiji said to him, "Look, Sri Swaminiji has accepted your cloth." The Kshatriya Vaishnava saw that all the items he had brought, cloth, saris, skirts, blouses, had all been accepted by Sri Swaminiji. She was wearing them. Sri Thakurji also was wearing the gold and silver threaded cloth. Sri Gosaiji said to the Kshatriya Vaishnava, "Stay standing right here. I will come back in a minute." Thus leaving the Vaishnava standing on the ghat, Sri Gosaiji entered the divine Leela, taking the basket of dried fruits with him. Once there, he offered the basket to the divine couple and stood with them. Sri Swamiji and Sri Thakurji began to eat the dried fruits, and then they began to dance. The Kshatriya Vaishnava witnessed the scene from the ghat. He was overjoyed and thought, "So great is my fortune that Sri Thakurji and Sri Swamiji have accepted all the cloth I brought, and it is the great grace of Sri Gosaiji that I have been allowed to witness the Ras Leela." Sri Thakurji gave to Sri Gosaiji some Mahaprasadi dried fruits, and he came back up onto the ghat. The Kshatriya Vaishnava prostrated before him and said, "O great Maharaj, no one but you could grace me in such a marvellous way." Sri Gosaiji went back to his Betak, where all the Vaishnavas had been sleeping and waiting. They bowed low to Sri Gosaiji and then went to their respective homes. The Kshatriya Vaishnava also prostrated before Sri Gosaiji and went to sleep. Sri Gosaiji took some rest before getting up early in the morning before sunrise and completed his ablutions. He went into the temple to serve his lord. The Kshatriya Vaishnava then came there at the time of the early morning waving of light ceremony and had the holy sight of Sri Navneet Priyaji. He again bowed low to Sri Gosaiji. He said, "O Maharaj, may I go home now?" Sri Gosaiji told him that he could go after the Rajbhog Arti. After the Rajbhog Arti, Sri Gosaiji was sitting in his Betak. The Kshatriya Vaishnav came there. Sri Gosaiji said that he should partake of Mahaprasad before leaving. Sri Gosaiji and all his children partook of Mahaprasad and then gave their prasadi leftovers to the Kshatriya Vaishnava. Sri Gosaiji gave it to him with his own hands. The Vaishnava had his prasad and bowed down again to see Sri Gosaiji, who presented him with a pan bida and let him take his leave. He went home to Agra. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story that all divine leelas rest within the Sri Yamnaji river. When the grace of Sri Acharyaji and Sri Gosaiji prevails, then it can be witnessed by the devotee. Therefore, Vaishnavas should have unshakable faith in them and know the Sri Yamnaji river form to be totally divine. Thus concludes Varta 135, the story of the Kshatriya Vaishnava from Agra, who was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no end to his tale. So we conclude the reading here for today. Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna. Aaj ke Anand ki Jai. Jai Shri Radhe.